So welcome. My name is Mike Fogel. I'm an art therapist. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the Philadelphia area. And I've been doing social skills therapy for more than 20 years. I founded the Art of Friendship social coping program. In the summers, we also run Camp Pegasus, which is this logo right here. And so that is all social skills all the time. And we also focus on emotional coping skills using CBT as well, because of my background as an art therapist in the mental health world. So we also have that component as well. And I run all of this out of my private practice, the Child and Family Art Therapy Center. And I also am an author. And this is session 2 out of 3, a 6-week celebration of the national rollout of my book. So here it is, a social emotional guidebook. And this presentation and the one in 2 weeks are excerpting portions of the book. So you can find that on my website, theartoffriendshipsocialskills.com, if you want the hard copy and the evidence of what just transpired tonight. And I've come to specialize in kids who are neurodiverse and working with kids across different diagnoses, whether it's ADHD, kids with mild autism or learning differences. And the approaches that we talk about tonight really support all of those children with those needs. And the kids that we're talking about, I mentioned neurodiverse, there's a neurological component, right? There's a brain-based component. The way their brain is wired is slightly different than other people, and they process the world a little bit differently. And there are millions of great strengths that come out of the neurodiversity. Creativity, outside the box thinking, a sense of justice, right? Passion, deep focus on preferred interests. These all have really great upsides. But also, living in this neurotypical world, it can be stressful. And so this chart shows how a therapist like me comes to assess and get to know a child's whole world. It's called a neuropsychosocial assessment. So the left column is the neurology. What are the different aspects of processing, mental processing the child's doing? The middle column are psychological factors. That's the psycho, part of neuropsychosocial. And so your psychology is your stress busting machine. It's that part of your functioning that is like a gear with the world. So one gear in this image is the child, one gear is the world, and we want the child to mesh with the world to make the engine go, right? But one's psychology is made up of your learned social skills and your learned coping skills. But for the child with the neurological column, kids across those diagnoses that I mentioned, there's an umbrella category called SECCs. I coined this term, social emotional cognitive challenges. I coined that, and it speaks to these little gaps in the child's awareness that in and of itself, in a vacuum, is not a problem. But then when the child steps into the neurotypical world, it creates hardship. The child can be stressed or anxious or rejected. And so across sensory integration, the child's learning style, their processing, how they think, their executive functioning, which is sort of the ADHD suite of behaviors, inhibiting impulses, focusing, executing behaviors in a logical and planful way. And the last bullet point on the left is social communication, which is the social skills suite of cognitive functions. So they can be affected in any different combination. And that weighs on the middle column. It makes it harder for your child to cope and engage with the world. But one key part that I didn't talk about yet is the right column, which is the social factors right here. The social factor is the child's environment. And so any of these columns can be a plus, it can be supportive, it can be helpful, or they can be a challenge, it could be a negative as in shorthand. What I mean by that is perhaps it's not supportive enough or it's not meeting the child's needs. So that includes parents and family, school, their camp or activities, external supports, therapies that they're in. So these outside of the child environments that the kids go to, are they meeting the child's needs? So when kids come to me for therapy, what I try to do is I try to teach the kids social skills and coping skills, to do direct instruction to help them with that left column, the neurological factors. And then I work with parents, caregivers, and schools to try to make this right column meet their needs. So this is what we're talking about today. I'm going to help you meet your child's needs, and we're going to create the positive cycles that will help your child learn and practice and repeat social skills. We use these in my practice, at our summer camp. I teach them to parents that I work with, and I also consult with schools. And so we call this the 𝗷̈ci method of social coping training. The 𝗷̈ci method overarches the child's whole functioning, and we're going to unpack that today. And I mentioned the different diagnoses that all sort of are under this umbrella of the 𝗷̈ci, with SECCs, social emotional cognitive challenges, that we're going to remediate together. But when kids struggle socially, it's not their fault. They simply don't know how to do it because of these gaps in their social understanding or their self-regulation. So with this approach, we're going to teach a child how to be social and stay calm. So here's the mindset that we need to have. We're going to create the ideal conditions together. And my objective in this presentation today is for you to be able to take away minimally one thing that you might add to your toolbox. If there's one skill that you can take, that would make tonight successful. If you get more than that, that's gravy, that's golden, okay? But I mentioned turning negative cycles positive. The number one thing that will help your child begin to relax into social training is interrupting negative cycles they're in with the world. I'm going to describe them. And then creating more and more positive cycles that create sort of motivation and momentum towards learning. Okay. The rest of this presentation is going to be about turning negative cycles positive. But also, I think other things that you might have in mind to create the ideal conditions is some kids don't always know what's in it for them socially to learn social skills. So you can always ask a child, this is good for teens or middle schoolers, well, what do you want for yourself socially? What's in it for you? Your reputation, how kids are treating you. So what's in it for you? What do you want to get out of life? Oh, well, guess what? If I can teach you these few things, then perhaps your life can be just a little bit better, a little bit easier, less hard, right? So what's in it for you? What do you want for yourself? Second, mental orientation for any social skills trainer, whether you're at home or school or in the office, is to develop sort of an education and developmental model. So it's the opposite of the old control and containment model, where it's behavioral. Child's bad, you're off task. Cut that out. That's inappropriate. So all that adult sort of control and containment about behavior doesn't teach the child what you want the child to learn. So we want to flip it and have it become an educational and developmental model. So everything that we are doing with the child is a teachable moment. Okay, so we want to reinforce the positive, what's going on, and we also want to intervene, jump in with social coaching that's effective for the rough patches. But we want to stay away from, behavior, pure behavior. Now later it's going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, because we're actually going to use a little bit of behavioral tool, but it's only one little piece of it. It's not the whole approach. Okay. Also, when you are teaching social skills, we need to begin and end with theory of mind. Theory of mind is a cognitive skill that the neurotypical person seems to have intuitively, and that's a sense of perspective taking. And I know in my mind that the other person has a different thought or feeling or motivation than I do, okay? And we accept that, and then we strive to usually understand other people's thoughts, okay? And then you can begin to negotiate and compromise if you have theory of mind. You can realize, oh, I'm talking too long. I don't want to become a bore. I'm going to ask the other person about their interest. So theory of mind and perspective taking is at the root of 90% of socialization. So we always want to link any social skill that we're talking about back to, well, what's the other person thinking about this? Right? Let's help the child understand theory of mind. Also, we need to remember for the child who has social skills challenges, this is hard stuff we're asking them to do. We're teaching them things in their very area of weakness, of challenge, and they might feel shame about it. They might feel embarrassed, or they might just feel frustrated because of repeated sort of frustration experiences. So we have to remember this is hard stuff. So therefore, we want to make this fun. We want to talk about social skills in as light a way as possible. And then we also don't want to grind your child to a pulp, correcting them in a way that really makes them feel bad about themselves. So that's more what we're going to talk about tonight. And the other piece that we always have to keep in mind is to be sensitive to the child's state and their readiness. And parents have often talked to me about this conundrum that they're in. Should I pump the brakes? Should I back off? Or should I push the child to try this? When to back off and when to push. And it's very gray, it's very subjective. As long as you're not pushing the child into a tantrum, into losing control, then you can push. But if the child's looking flooded emotionally, then you want to back off. So it requires your theory of mind and your empathy to really know when to pump the brake or to push your child or challenge your child. Okay. So all those go into the ideal mindset, just to get your mind ready to really be a successful social coach and social teacher. And now let's get into the 𝗷̈ci method of social skills training. Okay. The 𝗷̈ci is an acronym for these 4 aspects. A, anticipate and teach, where we're going to do skill building and we're structuring for success. So anticipating is us knowing what your child's needs are, or at least discovering them together, and then teaching them skills to fill in some of their cognitive gaps, also providing external structure so that your child has a better chance of success. That's the A. So we're going to teach the skills and we're going to structure their environment. The R, the second piece, is reinforcing and reward. And this is the key to the positive cycles. This is like the ignition. This is the gasoline. Okay. Reinforce and reward. We want to reinforce their successful use of any skill. We want to get the child to repeat their positive social skills until they become habits. That becomes their new floor, their new launch pad. And then they can try new skills and they can baby step up the ladder. Okay. But the environment that we want to create, we want that to be empowering and encouraging and motivational. So more on that tonight. The C is compassionate social coaching. And as I mentioned before, your child will need some correction, right? Your child's going to make social mistakes at times. Every child does. So childhood is a time for discovery. But how do we do it? How do we language it in such a way that the child doesn't feel just wrong all the time, defeated, embarrassed? So we're going to do very compassionate social coaching and problem solving. We're going to be talking about these 3, the A, R, and C tonight. The H, the holding environment, has to do with limits and boundaries and using behavioral methods, rewards, and certain types of consequences, very specific and targeted consequences, also to shape away negative or unacceptable behaviors. But tonight we're going to focus on the A, R, and C. So anticipate. Let's anticipate your child's needs as we get to know your child. And we're going to do direct instruction in social awareness. And we're also going to do direct instruction in emotional coping skills. A child cannot perform social skills if he or she is melting down. If their self-regulation is off, they're putting out fires inside all the time, and they have a hard time executing any social skill. They're focused inside and they can't really focus outside. So we also need to help your child begin to cope with anxiety or frustration or anger, learn how to handle them and start to feel confident that they can handle them. And then we can do social skills. And you can alternate. You can go back and forth between social and emotional coping skills. We also want to think ahead and proactively plan for participation in activities. So we'll talk about that in one of the next slides, where we have an action-reaction matrix that helps kids understand, oh, if I act a certain way, people are going to react in a certain way. Well, if that's so, let's think ahead. What kind of reactions do you want to get if you go to this birthday party or this job interview for a teen, right? So we're going to talk about proactive planning using a certain decision-making matrix. And the last piece of anticipate is to write, publish, and post increased behavior and decreased behavior lists. And I'm going to define them. So this is what we're going to do in terms of the A. We're going to anticipate. Here we go. Ready? So the team for fun gets good reactions. We have this concept called the team for fun, which is the unwritten contract that holds all relationships together. The unwritten contract is you and I are going to stay close together in this relationship, and we're going to try to keep each other happy and comfortable, right? We're going to try to keep each other happy enough and comfortable enough so we can stay engaged with each other. Relationships break down if either person is not on that contract, the team for fun. So we have this poster that we teach from, one of the earliest lessons in any social skills for any age, by the way. If it's for younger kids, like younger elementary school and preschool, we'll just leave off the heart and the arm that says feel and do, and we'll just have think. Here's how it works. So we talk about action reaction. If then, for every if, there's a then. If you act blank, and that first blank head is a little golden crown on it, the golden line, and then like Mad Libs, you put a behavior in that line. If I act blank, then kids will react. How are they going to react? They're going to think a certain way about you. They're going to feel a certain way towards you, and they might do something to you in reaction. Think, feel, do. So for older kids, upper elementary, middle school, and high school, we could have think, feel, do, which comes right out of cognitive behavioral therapy. What are they going to think about you? What are they going to feel about you? What are they going to do about you? And so then we start to plug in behaviors with this poster, and you can see, if I am playing basketball and I start arguing with the rules, arguing with the kids about the rules, it was inbounds, it was out of bounds, it was a foul, not a foul. If I argue the whole time, then kids will think, oh, he's no fun to play with. They'll think, he's wasting our recess. Well, how are they going to feel? They're going to feel frustrated around me. What are they going to do? They might yell at you. They might yell at me, right? They might not want to play with me next time. They might throw a ball at me. I don't know. So, okay, well, let's see. If we're doing this with the child, whether it's proactively ahead of time to teach, or if you're using this on the back end for social coaching, you can help the child see, well, you didn't get good reactions by arguing the whole time. So is there another behavior you could put in that golden line? Well, I could say do-over. Let's do a do-over, right? Or we'll say, all right, I'll let you guys have that. Play on. So if you can do that, then kids will think, oh, he's a fun playmate. They feel good. They're back to the game. And they're going to keep playing, and they'll probably want to invite you to play the next time. So you can do this inside and out. And as I mentioned, really importantly, I want to emphasize, you can use this to anticipate if your child is going to go to a new environment that he hasn't been to before. You can encourage your child to select really effective behaviors, and you can teach your child what are the golden behaviors for that new environment. So proactively, and on the back end, you can see what went wrong, and you can have the child brainstorm for positive behaviors to put in that golden line. Action, reaction. So this is just a sample of the type of social skills that we teach in my programs. And we do it very visually because of my background as an art therapist. And so we have these posters that are permanent and memorable. I always encourage parents to print these out, or teachers or therapists, have them on your wall. And you can always just point back to them, and there's a permanence about them, and they're always there as reminders. So now we've taught a social lesson, and your child or your student or your client is learning probably a social emotional curriculum somewhere at school or in the office. And so then for those of us who are working with the child, we want to reinforce. But if you reinforce the wrong way, you can actually have the child not want to repeat the behaviors. So you really need to know the difference between increased behaviors and decreased behaviors. An increased behavior is a behavior that you want to see the child do more often, or increase, right? Or start doing. A decreased behavior is a behavior you want to see the child either do less frequently or stop doing, right? So ineffective, unhelpful behaviors. And they need very different responses from their adult caregivers and trainers. So if you want to do increased behaviors, we want to talk about what are the behaviors that we want to see you do? We want to name them. So they could be behaviors that are just key in your house or in your school, right? Do, follow directions the first time you're asked, right? Notice, if you're trying to work on increased behaviors, you want to formulate rules in the positive formulation. These are the positive replacement behaviors you want to see the child do. So parenthetically, imagine the word do before any of your rules, and that'll help you form them properly. Do, follow directions. My dog needed attention. True Zoom moment. Do follow the directions the first time you're asked. Do use your calming strategies. Do use kind words and voices. So you can see, you can take away the word do, and then it's a normal human sentence, English sentence, and but the do helps you to formulate them really effectively. So you want to write down and come up with your top 3 to 5 do rules, okay? For kids in preschool, 3 is plenty. Elementary school, 4, maybe 5, but I wouldn't go more than 4 or 5. And then you want to WPP them, write, publish, and post, okay? Because they have to be permanent. Almost all the kids that I work with are incredibly concrete, and words are kind of invisible, language processing, but if you can put it down in black and white or in color, write them down. So publish them, go over them with the child, publish them, let them know this is what's expected, these are what we're looking for. And then post them, put them on a fridge, post them, hang them in the child's bedroom perhaps, in a key spot where they'll be seen, and then you want to go over them. So WPP, write, publish, and post your expectations. Now your child might have a list of 10 or 15 behaviors that you want your child to improve on that might help. So if you have that type of situation, you want to prioritize. So in your mind, think about which are the 3 on this whole list of all the behaviors that I want my child to improve on. What are the 3 that will make the biggest difference in our child's life, in the classroom's life, in our family's life? And then put them at the top of the list and just work on them. As your child starts to meet them, you can scratch them off and tell your child, congratulations, you just graduated from that rule. Still do it, but now we're going to add a new one. So you can always add new ones to the do rule list, okay? So it's a living document. And this is an example of what we have in my camp. And every morning we do a ritual reading of the camp rules. So rule number 1, do, follow directions. Grown-ups must be in charge, you can see. Right? Keep hands and feet to yourself, even if you are mad. So we have that. So these are some examples of write, publishing, and posting the rules. Okay, so now we've taught your child the social skills and coping skills, and you have the do rule list. Oh, and I want to add, not to forget this, you can place certain social skills that your child has learned in a do rule. So let's say your child's learning flexibility. Do, be flexible, right? Be flexible. We call it being bendy. Be bendy. Do, use your words if you are upset. So whatever social skills that your child's learned, throw them into your do rule list because you want to see them really emphasizing, okay, these are what's expected. Use these social skills and coping skills. So now your child has learned what they need to learn theoretically, and they know your expectations. So your child is in the world, and the world is your child's social skills group. Your child is engaging with the world in your home, wherever he or she is. And so now we're going to rely on you to be that social coach, to make the social coaching come alive. And so I have this image of the balance scale here, and you can see on the one side, we have reinforcement, which is the ultra positive cycle that we're trying to create. Reinforce those positive skills, the do rules. Yes, you did that. That was great. More of that, right? And then we have social coaching, which is when there's a mess up. And all day long, all life long, you are toggling back and forth between reinforcement. Reinforce is the default. Oh, mess up. We're going to coach through that, and we're back to reinforcing. So this is what you can provide when you are in the child's world as a teacher, as a parent, caregiver. Okay, so now we're going to dig into this. Here we go. So we've anticipated, we have taught, we've structured, and we've set up the do rules and the expectations. So now we're going to reinforce the skill practice. And there's a caregiver skill that we talk about, which is called attending to the positive. And here's where you can most powerfully create the positive cycle that your child needs to learn what you want them to learn. All right, so most kids that come to therapy with me arrive, before they get to me, they're locked in some sort of a negative reinforcement cycle with their world. So with teachers at school, they're constantly being corrected, like back in your seat, back in your seat, back in your seat, back in your seat, Johnny. Right? So it feels corrective, and the kid's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be in my seat? Why can't I stay in my seat? And with peers, stop, leave me alone, leave me alone. You're so annoying. Are refrains that a lot of kids have told me over the years they hear. And so this can really grind down someone's self-esteem and their motivation even to engage socially. Kids can have a sense of learned helplessness after a while. Why should I even try? This is why it's so important to develop this positive cycle, because we're selling something. We want your child to discover or rediscover the social world can be positive. The social world can be fun. And that doesn't have to be as hard as it always has been. We can create this together. So grown-ups, we are going to attend to the positive. How do we do that? We are going to observe micro behaviors. And we're going to notice small decisions when your child perseveres with something, effort. Noticing the positive, and then you see it and say it. So what do I mean by attending to the positive? It's completely human nature for any adult, including myself with my kids who are now adults, young adults, to catch the mess ups. Why do we catch the mess ups as adults? Well, because we ourselves are navigating our day from wake up, getting the kids off to school, and then we start our day, we're doing whatever we're doing during the day, work, managing the home, whatever we're doing. Kids come home, more of that, and then, maybe we get 15 minutes at the end of this long day to put our feet up, right? A half hour to watch one Netflix show before we pass out and start it all over again. So we kind of take advantage of the positive moments. We take it for granted, rather. And we're like, okay, things are going well. Great, you're great. I can still work on my stuff. And then when do we comment? When something's squeaky, when something's going on, kids are conflicting, someone's upset, someone's off task. Then that pulls us in, so we're commenting on the negatives. We're taking snapshots of that. So attending to the positive is flipping that. And there's a quick little experiential that you can do that can help you get the hang of this. So if you go and observe any child who you either work with or at home for 5 minutes, you're going to do very deep focus on the child for 5 minutes, and almost like a sports play-by-play announcer in your mind, notice every single micro behavior and decision your child does, only in 5 minutes. If you want to extend the activity, you can even jot it down on a piece of paper so you can see this list that you develop only in 5 minutes. And so what I do is, as an example, let's say your child is playing with Legos, building Legos. And so a child is down on his knees, he's got the Legos, and you start to do this practice observation. And you go, okay, there he is, he's picking up his spaceship that he already started, and he's putting this on, he picks up the gray piece. No, he changed to blue. That doesn't fit, he changed to red. That's working. Oh, he squeezed it too hard. It crumbled. He's staying calm. Okay? He's rebuilding the old ship. Now he's back, he's putting that gray piece on. So you can see, if you just watch for 5 minutes, every one of those behaviors is a decision. So notice those, and now take that out to the rest of your child's world and start to comment on it. See it and say it, okay? And so we call that targeted ignoring for negative behaviors. We're gonna let some of those go. If they're not disrupting anyone, if no one is crying or hurt because of a behavior, let it go. Way better to elicit more and more positive replacement behaviors that you wanna see. A lot of the negative or unhelpful behaviors will fall by the wayside once the child is starting to strive to repeat and repeat their positive replacement behaviors. Okay, so we try to be as zero power struggle as possible. More on that in a little bit. And that begins with congruence and empathy and reflection. And so the key skill to take away from this is TPR, targeted positive reflection. Okay. TPR it used to be called praise, but we're not really giving praise. We are telling kids what we're seeing that's really helping the child. So what a great conversation question, right? Do more of that. You were so flexible. You two worked it out. That was awesome. You look sad right now. You okay? So we're reflecting the state that the child's in. We're reflecting what the child's doing and all their decisions. And so the child feels like you're with them because you're not saying stop, 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 which is a very perpendicular kind of a thing. You're putting the brakes on and speed bumps. Instead, you're joining them. Oh, you did that great. Yes, yes, more of that, more of that, more of that. So it meets kids right where they are and they feel deeply heard. You are with them when you do this. So the social skills trainer feels less adversarial and like you're pulling them along. And it's more like you've got your arm around them and you're walking the path together. Okay? And TPR is a reinforcer and you're taking a snapshot of success. So before, if you were in some negative cycles with a child, you're taking snapshots back in your seat, you just framed that moment. Okay, the child now knows I'm out of my seat. Oh, I must be out of my seat a lot. Well, I keep hearing that. But what if we actually took the snapshot of the positive behaviors that we're hoping the child will do more of, right? So see it and say it, name it. Great eye contact. Great job tuning into me with your eyes. Coping efforts, you stayed so calm. You took that break, awesome. Keep taking breaks if that helps you, right? So you can compliment them and praise them with this TPR on work habits and decisions and choices. You decided to do this, you decided to do that. And so TPR is a lot like holding up a mirror to a baby. Babies learn language and learn their states. Babies crying, you go, oh, you're upset. Oh, you must be hungry. And baby learns to name their states. So it's also, we're helping the kids develop self-awareness as well. So there's a lot of good that happens when we start to reflect what we're seeing. Reflect, reflect, reflect. And to do that, reflection is powered by the word you. You. You're doing this, you did that. So you can reflect and what we call track, you can track all decisions. You decided to take a break. You decided to get started. You changed your mind, right? If the child's inflexible and they change their mind, you must take a snapshot of that moment. That was so flexible, you changed your mind. Maybe you can do that again sometime. I wonder when is the next time when you change your mind. Okay, so you changed your mind. You can also track problem solving. You did it. You figured it out all by yourself. And you can track conflict resolution also. If there's two kids involved, you two worked it out. You two got back to fun. Great job. What a great compromise. So naming those things, always beginning with the word you. So if you're around your kids, looking to catch the positive, right? We're going to flip that focus and create the positive cycles. Reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. You'll see that your child will probably start to repeat and repeat more of the positive behaviors you're looking for. They're going to feel closer to you. They're going to feel corrected less. So there's a lot of positives that come out of this orientation. You can also give TPR for developing self-awareness and self-control for behavior. Oh, you're climbing high up there. Or if the child is screaming, you can say, oh, you can do this with your hands to reflect, or you can say, oh, that's loud. You can do some nonverbals. And then you might see the child self-correct just by reflecting the behavior. And then in terms of helping the child with emotional situations, if they're upset about something, you're sad about that. You sound frustrated right now. You really sound frustrated. That hurt your feelings. So naming it, reflecting what we're seeing is a default setting for engaging with kids. If this is the only thing that you take away from tonight, you will change your child's life. That's a strong statement by me. But I believe it. Next, I wanted to show you how you can still use reflection. You can stay in reflection mode if your child is really yelling at you. your child's really giving it to you. So we call this complex reflection for disrespect. So instead of the grown-up getting reactive and yelling back or taking it personally, you can get stuck in power struggles. Remember I mentioned 0 power struggle program? If you comment on the behavior. So if you're trying to get your child to do homework and your child goes, "Oh, you're so annoying. You're the worst parent ever," or "I hate you." If you say, "Well, that's not nice," if you start focusing on the behavior, on their words, your child has just sucked you in, and that's the smokescreen so they get out of doing the homework or whatever you were working on. Now you're commenting on behavior and they can argue, "I don't care." So now you're stuck in this. But if you can do complex reflection, don't reflect the behavior, go beneath the behavior to the emotion. So kid goes, "This is the worst class ever. You are really mad right now. What's up?" Kid goes, "Yeah." And often they'll start spewing and they'll say, "What's the problem?" You can get to the problem. If you can have them elicit the problem and the emotion, often that begins problem solving. But if you stay stuck on the disrespect piece and argue about that, then your child has effectively done what they were trying to do psychologically, which is maybe to avoid that hard thing. "I am not doing this stupid homework." You sound super frustrated. "What's making it so hard to get started?" "Oh, teacher gave me these directions. I don't understand them." "Okay, well, let me help you." So you can see that it can be, this I can't guarantee. I can't make guarantees on this one. Sometimes the child just needs to storm it out. But we therapists use this all the time. We use this all the time with kids yelling at us in our camp. It helps them to de-escalate and get to the root of the problem faster. And it decreases power struggles. Another way to help with some of the power struggles, the negative cycles that kids might elicit in any family or school situation is whining. Whining is the child's #1 way to torture an adult, okay? The sound, it goes in your ears and it just rattles your vertebrae, right? But you can say, if the child's whining, "Why are you standing there and taking it?" You're going toe to toe and the child's whining at you and screaming and whining. So what we say is, "Well, I can't hear that voice. Can you try again? I can't hear that voice. Try again." And you don't have to say like a big girl voice or big boy voice. No, don't have to say that, because that actually might have a slight sort of condescending tone, like, "Oh, you're being a baby," even though they are. But just, "I can't hear that voice." That's enough. And then be a wall. And then your child will bounce into that. And ultimately, your child wants to be heard. So try again. Can you try a regular voice? That's another way to say it. Can you try a regular voice? And that's the way. If you can just be a rock, brick wall, and not give in, have your child just bump into, "I can't hear that voice. Try again. Try again." They will go for the more efficient communication after a while, and they will drop the whining. Okay, so that's just a natural consequence. It's just you being strong and not getting sucked into, "Oh, you're driving me crazy. Stop the whining." Okay, next. The next way that kids can sort of create negative cycles that we want to try to help diffuse is when we grown-ups give instructions to the inflexible child, or the child that doesn't cooperate readily. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to be sure that you have the child's attention first. Most of the kids that I work with, except all but the most oppositional child, they really are rule followers. They want to know what's expected, but there are a couple of things that go on with them that make it hard for them to really transition and follow directions. So step 1 is you get their attention. A lot of the kids that we work with have this hyper-focus piece. Yes, even if they have ADHD and they're inattentive in some things, if they're focused on a preferred activity, something that they enjoy or is interesting to them, they can have this hyper-focus. And I must say, on a personal note, I am that way to this day. I was like this as a child. So it was time for me to get ready for, to put clothes on to go out. And I'd be sitting in my room reading a comic book, and I couldn't hear anything. I'd be focused, I'd be looking down, engrossed in my comic. My parents could be calling me till the cows come home. I wouldn't hear it. And looking back, one of my parents would come storming up the stairs to the bedroom floor and say, "Mikey, what are you doing? I've been calling you for like 5 minutes." It's like, I didn't hear anything, which is infuriating to a grown-up. So number 1 answer, to get your child to cooperate is actually to make sure you have their attention. So you might need, you can't call from a different room. Don't call in from a different room or a different floor, because there's a good chance your child's not going to respond anyway. You're probably going to have to go to your child, call their name. And if the child doesn't orient to you, I'm not saying eye contact, but just show you that they're attending to you, then you might need to get down on their level, right? Get down on their level. Maybe you can put a gentle hand on a shoulder, a little tactile input might help to break their focus out of whatever they're doing. Say, can you think about me for a minute? Or check in with me. If they orient to you, then they're ready to receive your instruction. Yes, it might be several extra steps that you have to take, but it's way less energy than escalating in repeating directions. Your blood boils, and then, right? And then you're yelling and child's upset, and you still have to get out the door. So take the extra steps, get their attention in this gentle way. Then, second bullet point, be brief and clear. So you want to not overwhelm with language. On your way to your child, get in your head what it is that you are asking them to do. And then just say it simply. We're leaving soon, shoes and shirt on, right? Before bedtime, okay, brush teeth, pajamas, right? So not too long, not like the moral benefits of getting to sleep on time. No, if you're talking too much, your child's gonna forget the instructions. So brief and clear, get their attention, brief and clear, say what you mean what you say. And then the last bullet point is patience. At least half, if not more, of the kids that we work with are slow processors. And the processing speed in someone's mind has nothing to do with intelligence itself. You can be someone who has average intelligence, or you could be gifted, you could be genius, but processing speed is how quickly you process information and produce it. And so you could have two kids who are sitting right next to each other in class. Teacher asks a question. One kid goes, ooh, right? They shoot their hand up really quick. There's the ooh kid. The other kid sitting next to him or her thinks a couple beats, puts their hand up, and they would have the same answer. They might both be right. How do we explain that? Different processing speeds. So if your child is a slower processor and you know your child, give extra time to mentally process your instruction and then to organize the behavior and comply. So you might need to count 5 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 1, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4, 5. 5 Mississippi, if you really count it, is fairly long. You might need to go to 7 for your child. And you'll see your child will think for a second, will orient, and we'll get going. He'll do or she'll do what you ask. So that can really be helpful. Get their attention, brief and clear, not too much language, and then give them a chance. If you hover over them and say, come on, let's go. Your child's now processing all these additional prompts, and they can't even execute the behavior. It's too much. So hang back, give them a chance to comply, and you go right back to the TPR. All right, great job getting ready. Right, so you can praise them, let them know that that's what we're looking for. So ultra positive. Now, some kids may outright refuse, right? No, I'm not doing it. There's so many reasons why a child might refuse. Control, anxiety, sensory. If you're asking them to do something that's hard for them from a sensory standpoint, it could be overwhelming. If what you're asking them to do is not compulsory, it's not like something that's super time limited, you can say this. You can say, you don't want to do this right now, but maybe later you will be ready to do blah, blah, blah. Let's say you're trying to get your child to be ready to try a new after-school activity. All right, you don't want to do this right now. Maybe later you'll be ready to do this. You want your child to do homework. You say, all right, right now, this is hard to get started, but later it'll get easier after you do this a couple times. Piano lessons or piano practice, all right? So when do you want to do it? So you can get a commitment from your child and have them let you know when they're ready. For the child who feels rushed or who is just not quite ready. So the culture of readiness. Now, sometimes parenting or at school, there is a time crunch. They need to do something that's compulsory, and you can't go with this culture of readiness. I understand. So that's picking your battle. So sometimes you do have to go there, but other times, if you don't have to, let's actually pick your battles and say, all right, you don't want to do this right now. That's fine. You can do it later. Right? And then put them down for a time. When will you do this? All right, I'm going to hold you to it. You can't get out of it later. Okay, we're going to talk about this in 2 weeks. So now, in the time remaining, we're going to talk about the C, compassionate social coaching. So now we have done A. Your child is learning SEL at school, or they're in a social skills group, they're learning social skills. And you have the do rules at home. And now you've gotten good at noticing the positive, giving TPR, repeating and repeating these positive reinforcements to try to get them feeling good and repeating the positive skills. Okay, but now something has gone wrong. There's a misunderstanding, or your child executed an unhelpful social behavior that didn't work out well. Okay, so I'm going to teach you Jeopardy Coaching, which is our special coaching technique that is soft, that isn't very confrontational. We're going to emphasize your child's self-determination and self-responsibility, how it's your child's decision, action, reaction. You get to decide how people react to you. And we're going to give supportive responses to your child's emotional state. So here we go with this aspect. So remember, once your child has learned their social skills, they're learning them at school, and social skills, now your child's out in the world, and we're toggling back and forth. We're reinforcing, and then whoop, social coaching. And as soon as your child gets back on track and is doing something positive again, back to reinforcement. Right? I just want to bring back that slide to show you the oscillation there. Okay, so we call it Jeopardy Coaching. Why? Because the best social coaching occurs in question form. Why do we say this? I ask in question form because I want to get you thinking. And we want to get your child thinking socially. If you correct, say, no, that's not nice, right? You've done the social thinking. Your child hasn't had to exercise that muscle. But if you say, ask your child, related to theory of mind, how did your peer feel about that? Did he or she like that or not like it? You're asking the child to use their social cognition and their theory of mind. Oh, he didn't like it when I did that. Okay, right? So question form gives the child the gift of social cognition. Make your child do the thinking and exercise that muscle. And so you can use social coaching, this Jeopardy coaching, for instructions and cooperation. So like, what are you supposed to be doing right now? Where does your body need to be right now? Right? And if you're giving instructions, right, who's giving instructions right now? He goes, oh, you are. No. That's right. Okay, back to me, focus on me. So if your child is getting off task, instead of saying back in your seat, you can say, where does your body need to be right now? We use this all the time in our therapy, the social skills groups, and at camp. And a child who is now wandered away, they're going way off task, they look back, they go, oh, I'm supposed to be over there. And they walk back, they get back in their assigned spot. So what are you supposed to be doing right now? Where does your body need to be right now? And who's giving instructions are great questions to have your child think about the social situation and get back on track. Think about these. Okay. So to help your child understand, develop perspective taking and that theory of mind we spoke about in the very beginning, we want to talk about people's feelings. Okay? Think about Emily's feelings. What can you do to help her stay comfy around you? What will your friends think about you if you do blank? Remember back to the action-reaction poster? Hold on. So now you can see how Jeopardy coaching also points back to the social lessons. What's everyone going to think about you if you do that again? If you do that embarrassing thing, or if you send an inappropriate picture over social media, what's everyone going to think about you? Is that the reputation that you want? What behavior can you put in that golden line to make them think great things about you? Right? So here's how you can have the kids think through the social situation using the action reaction, the social cause and effect piece. Also, we use Jeopardy coaching for self-reflection, self-determination, and independence. So let's say that your child did something that was wrong, legitimately, like, they broke a rule or something and they got in trouble at school. So they come home, they're all upset. I had to stay in from recess today for 10 minutes. Okay, but at home, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10's the worst. How bad was it to feel like that? Do you want to have that consequence again? What can you do tomorrow or next time to make sure you don't have that happen again? So you can, through questions, you can have your child evaluate, was that a reaction that you wanted, right? Or that negative consequence, would you want that again? And then the next question, the next bullet, encourages their mind to come up with a plan. What can you do tomorrow to make sure that doesn't happen again? What behavior is on your road to happiness, your road to success, which is also a social skills lesson? So what behavior is on your road to success? What could you do next time to make sure that you get the response that you deserve, that you desire, excuse me. Okay, and you also can use question form when there are two kids conflicting. So we can use theory of mind to help kids resolve a conflict. We're going to teach the theory of mind, the perspective taking, that both people are upset. So if you come across two kids that are arguing, you zip in, swoop in, get on their level, and you go, time out, guys, hold on. What just happened here? To child A. Think about child B's face. Does child B look happy or unhappy? Child B, take a look at A's face. Does A look happy or unhappy with you? And what can the two of you do? What can the two of you do to get back to fun? What can the two of you do to get back to fun? Now you can start with that last question, but you miss this great opportunity to see each other's faces and to read social cues. So question 1, A, take a look at B's face. B, take a look at A. Are you happy with each other? No, you're upset. Now, if both kids are escalated and they're too angry, they might need to take a break first. Everyone needs to calm down, get their self-regulation back in check, and then re-engage to have this conversation, this coaching conversation. So again, when to push and when to back off has to do with how high the emotion is for the child, right? So hold on, what just happened here? Take a look at his face, take a look at her face. What can the two of you do to get back to fun? Question form all the time when you're coaching, right? And you can use question form for this. Again, what behavior could you put in that golden line to have kids think great things about you or to get that reaction that you wanted? So question form wins the day in social coaching. Here's another way to use question form in social coaching. When there's an obstacle, when something gets in the way of a child's success or their fun, we talk about problem solving. We talk about obstacles. A lot of kids love obstacle course TV shows that are on TV where there are races. There's all these obstacles. Some are funny and some are really athletic. Right? So a lot of kids know about obstacle courses nowadays. So life is like an obstacle course, right? These problems crop up, challenges, we need to solve them. So in a metaphoric story, we tell the story here of here is the person who's on his or her road to happiness. Here is the road to happiness. Here's the child's destination. And so the child is moving along, but then out of nowhere from the sky drops this boulder right in the child's path. So this boulder could be homework, for instance. Your child wants to relax at the end of the day, but now here's this boulder that comes in. So, okay, how are you going to handle this? Question form. So name it. See how there's a line on the boulder? You need to name the obstacle. What is this thing that's in the way of your fun, your success? Is it homework? Is it another child being inflexible? Is the environment too loud from a sensory standpoint? So let's talk about what is the obstacle to your success, your comfort. And then we go on with the story with kids. And so just, again, in the picture, we ask kids, well, how would this character in the picture get around this boulder? And they'll inevitably they'll come up with over, around, under, or through. And so in the metaphor, this character came up with 4 possible options. And for kids who struggle socially, they often have a hard time coming up with multiple options when they're problem solving. If they're lucky, they come up with one option and they try that harder and harder, louder and louder until they're really frustrated. So we really want kids to generate multiple options for a problem, different ways to handle it. And in question form, okay, how could you handle this problem? So now let's name it homework again. Okay, so then don't rescue your child or the kid you're working with, okay? You might start to like feed them answers because they're being quiet, or they say, I don't know. But then say, no, think a second, I'll be quiet, I'll be here. What's one thing that you could do to handle this obstacle that we just named? And sometimes the first option or two that kids give are outrageous. They're silly or they're inappropriate. And again, they could be the child's attempt to avoid, or they're regressing because they're uncomfortable. So the kid goes, rip it up. Okay, but if you center that, if you start to edit and say, no, now you're in a power struggle about the first option. So I just write it down. Okay, rip it up, rip up homework. I'll do that, right? Kid goes, okay, blow up the school. Okay, I go, okay, blow up school. Okay, I see where this is going. Some of these are pretty hard, and of course, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. So let's make 3 and 4 real solutions, real things that you could do that won't get you in trouble. So rather than correct early, just write them down, go with it, and then make 3 and 4. Let's see if you can come up with some real ones, okay? And then over time, if you can do this in a concrete way on paper, your child will get the picture, no pun intended. Your child will come to understand that this is the process. Eventually they'll be able to do it just with words, just in conversation. They won't need the concrete paper. So life's an obstacle course, drops out of the sky. Let's name it, name this problem to tame it, name it to tame it, and then let's list 4 options. And so this can become an ongoing process for your child if he or she is a melter downer or they get stuck. So you can use this for problem solving. I have one more tool for problem solving. And tomorrow, I am going to send you all and everyone who registered a copy of the PowerPoint and also this image as well. This is the Think, Feel, Do Problem Solvers Worksheet. And so this is a structured way for a child to review a behavior or a social situation that went poorly. They wound up upset, frustrated, it didn't work out, maybe they got rejected. So, and again, this builds on our concept of the road to happiness. So the top circles are the road to happiness. We call that the purple phase. Take the road to happiness and the road to success. And the bottom in these sort of rectangular fields is a series of steps that lead to the road to anger or sadness, the road to struggle. So if you want to use this as a tool with a child, you start off way on the left side with what happened? What did I want? So there's the lines under the question mark. Let's just get this down. Okay, what happened in that scenario? I started yelling and screaming curse words at this kid, and like I said, I needed a timeout. Okay. All right. So first you do the bottom section, and you're going to review what are the mental steps, the inner steps that led to the red phase, so your child can develop some self-awareness and self-control about this. So what did I think? Oh, I was frustrated because this kid, I was like, I only wanted to play blah, 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 and this kid wasn't letting me. He didn't give me a turn. Okay. So the kid didn't give you a turn, and so you thought, I hate him. So then you go to the next one, right here. My thought made me feel, so your thinking makes you feel something. I felt enraged, felt really angry, okay? And then, what did I do? I screamed curses at the kid, and then I got a timeout. I had to sit on the side for a while. Okay, so did that work out well for you? Question form? No. All right. So we're going to work on the top part, and this top part is going to help you to create your road to happiness. So here we go. Ready? So here we go. Number one, what's a new way that you could think about that same thing? Okay, kid same story. The peer doesn't let him play something at recess. Well, I could think maybe they already had even teams and I had to go find another kid to even out the teams to play. Maybe they were almost finished that game and I could get in the next round, right? So there's some new things that I could think. If you felt those things, if you thought those things, follow the arrows to the middle column, number 2. How would you feel then? Well, I wouldn't be enraged. I'd probably be just maybe a little frustrated or medium, neutral. Okay, let's follow it up. So what's a different thing you could do? Think, feel, do. You're not as upset. So what could you do if the kid says, oh, you can't play? You could say, how come? And the peer says, oh, well, we already have even teams. Go find another kid to make the teams even. I run off, I go find another player, I come back, and we get in. Was that your success? Yes. So you can see, walk the child down, think, feel, do that led to the struggle. And then the repair is up top. You're going to go up, think, feel, do towards the success. And then that one, the last one, the 3, can be the plan. This is what you can do next time this type of thing happens. So it's just a very structured way to walk the child through a social conflict, something that didn't go well. You can also use this for meltdowns. After meltdowns, what led to the meltdown? What did I think? What did I feel? What did that lead to? So far, tonight, we're almost up to Q&A time. So get your questions ready. We talked about the A of the arch. To anticipate, we're going to teach social lessons. We're going to also give your child the do formation rules, the do rules, right? Let them know what you're hoping that they will work on. Then the R is reinforcing TPR all the time, heavy on the TPR. You did this, you did that, you did that. Frame those moments so your child knows what to do. Again, what to repeat. And then C, on the back end, if there's an issue, a challenge, we shift to questions. How do you want to handle that? What do you want to do next time? And so on. How's he feeling? So that's the A, R, and C. That's what we're going to cover tonight. The H is a presentation unto itself. And in 2 weeks, you can click on and join us. We're going to talk about this. The H is creating a holding environment, a powerful bird's nest, right? With boundaries and limits that helps your child know what are the deal breakers? What behaviors are not okay? What are some boundaries that you should not go past? And I'm going to teach some skills that you can use to help fade out negative or inappropriate behaviors. We're also going to talk a little bit more about the R. We're going to talk about a reward system as well to power up the TPR. So if your child is a little bit stuck and they're having a hard time taking on and practicing and repeating their new social skills just with the R, just with the TPR, we can stack a real-time reward system. We're going to go over that next time too. So join us here, join us for another video on my YouTube channel. Okay. And so that is the arch. All right. And the arch is essentially covered in my book that you can find on the artoffriendshipsocialskills.com. It's called the Social Emotional Guidebook, and it really contains most of the things that we've talked about tonight. Okay, so now we have arrived at question and answer time. And we can all stay on till 8:30 before we turn into pumpkins. So I'm going to pull up the chat, so feel free to chat me a question. And if you also can unmute yourself if you like, and you can just ask the question.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay, thanks, Elizabeth.
And I actually just emailed this to you. This is just, I have to tell you, this has just been the most useful thing I've ever seen on behavior with our son.
Thank you so much.
I'm kind of overwhelmed. It's just fabulous. I would love. How do we get a recording of this?
Yes. So I am recording this, as any of you who were on in the beginning when I clicked record, will know. And it's going to be posted on my YouTube channel, Mike Fogel's Art of Friendship, but also, and there's a lot of other videos about anger, frustration, anxiety up there as well that you can discover. And But also for those of you who registered for this tomorrow, along with the PowerPoint and the Think, Feel, Do Problem Solvers worksheet, I'm also going to send a link directly to the video.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And oh, there's a chatted question. Any strategies to deal with children who see the world negatively or who have rejection sensitivity? Yes, and there is a video on the YouTube channel, I believe, that covers just this topic. There's a whole skill module within CBT related to negative thinking and how negative thinking is quite a cycle that spirals. And so the short answer that really deserves a whole long presentation is that for the person who's negative or who has rejection sensitivity or anxiety for that matter, their minds kind of loop on it. And so it becomes a little bit of a spiral. We call that the toilet bowl of doom because you kind of mentally flush yourself down the toilet of your negativity in that. And then it makes it hard for you, again, to engage with the world meshing. And so really, it's not a quick technique, but in therapy, using some CBT, you can help the child see, yes, that is one way to see the world. And in fact, people who have negative thinking, there was really quite a benefit, to that kind of a person in a clan. I think 10,000 years ago, the person who says, oh, this bad thing could happen, right? That's probably not going to work out. They were the ones who were very protective of the clan. Let's not go to that edge of that cliff. That could work out poorly. So negative thinking has a place, but when it's so excessive that it gets in the way of someone's functioning in present day society, now there's struggle, right? So it's kind of out of control protectiveness. So if we can help the child see, yes, that is one natural way to see the world, but there are some other ways too that it could be equally valid. Here, let's present them. And so we talk about lenses, and I'm wearing glasses. If you put on a pair of glasses or sunglasses, what happens to the world? Well, our lens changes the way we see the world, doesn't it? And so the person who is negative thinking in this example, they have that lens on and they agree with themselves. Yes, this is the way the world is, and it's negative. So when we present this to kids, we'll have another lens on a paper, like these posters that I mentioned, and we'll say, take a look at this other lens. Well, and let's see if this is valid in any way. And so the people who have negative lenses on might think, the world's against me. Things don't work out for me, right? I'm not lovable. Oh, I'm never successful. So it's something in that vein, probably. And then we compare and contrast the two lenses. Okay, let's say you have those thoughts, but the person who has like a neutral or rose-colored glasses on, they think everyone's human, everyone's trying their best, no one's perfect, okay? So now we've contrasted the different lenses. And then we go on to say, okay, now I'm going to tell you a story. And I want you to talk about the reaction of the people who have these different lenses on. Lens number one is the negative lens is, okay, so the story is, two people walking down a hallway. They're both carrying lots of books. They happen to come too close together. They clip shoulders and they drop all their books. Well, the person who has the negative, the dark colored lens on, thinks, oh, this person did it on purpose. He's a jerk. My life stinks. This is awful. Now I'm going to be late, right? All these negative, angry, kind of hostile thoughts. The other person in the same collision happens to have the positive lens of no one's perfect, everyone's human, everyone's trying their best each day. Okay. That person, the books crash to the ground. That person thinks, oh, oops. I'm sorry, maybe I bumped into you, right? Let me help you. They're helping to pick up the books. They go on their way. They're resilient. They feel okay. And the person with the negative, angry thoughts is still angry 20 minutes later, 2 hours later. This is the worst day, right? So which of these people seems like a happier person? So you want to have the child then evaluate, how are my thoughts working for me? Are they working well? So you want to start to just create a little friction and have them start to observe their thoughts and assess, are they working for me? If not, could I try on a different set of lenses? Just experiment with it, no guarantees. So then, we'll work with that child in developing some new ways of seeing the world, and let's just experiment with it. So there you go. So that's the shortest answer I can give without doing a whole presentation on it. Any other questions, either by unmuting yourself or by chatting? We can hang out for about 5 more minutes before we should wrap up.
I can ask a quick question.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks. Super. I just wonder if you have any thoughts on balancing this orientation towards like good reactions, which I'm really liking, but also kind of limiting it in a way that they don't slide into like a people-pleasing tendency, that they're able to like balance their own interests, like especially, like I have a kind of quirky little kid, doesn't always want to like go with the flow. Yeah, I just wonder if you have any thoughts on it.
Doing this that will not change a child's personality or who they are. This is at the behavior level, and reinforcing specific behaviors. I know that in the education world, praise has become a 4-letter word because there's a sense that it can be demotivating for kids. But it's really only demotivating for kids when the adults aren't employing praise. We call it this targeted reflection. But when you praise improperly, that's what causes kids to get soft, so to speak, or to be spoiled in a way. So you're kind of fluffing them up. Oh, you're so funny. You're so smart. That's the kind of praise you're sort of praising, like a state or a trait that a child can't really repeat. Like, you're so cute. How do you repeat cute? So but people tend to reinforce or praise the wrong things. But if you reflect someone's effort, you're giving them credit. And we're also contrasting that with all the negative comments that kids get all the time. If we're not going to let them know when they do something well, then why do we let them know when they do something poorly as well? There's still this the adult feedback piece. And quite frankly, I don't think the kids, in my experience, in 22 years of clinical experience, I don't think the kids develop in a vacuum. As I mentioned, going back to infancy, the adult's reflection of the child's state helps the child to name their different states. And they realize, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm feeling this way. So for all those kids who are bopping through their day without a lot of social awareness, they're selecting a lot of behaviors at random. When we name them, we're helping to organize their minds to say, like, this is the repeatable behavior. But I've never seen a kid that I work with, and I've worked with some kids for 3, 7, 9 years the longest I ever worked with someone. And I've never seen someone lose their cool or stop being like a critical thinker, or different. So I just want to assure you of that as we work with kids on the behavior and helping them to repeat the positive coping skills. Yeah. Okay, maybe time for one more. Anyone has one? If not, you can always email me if you have a personal question. But thank you. Your questions were excellent. Made me think on a Thursday evening. And so anyone who's watching this in video, thanks for selecting this video. Thank you for taking time out of your busy lives to spend time with me. And you can get the link for the meeting in 2 weeks. We'll talk more about behavior and handling some of the more difficult behaviors that kids put out there and how to shape those. All right, so take care, everyone, and onward and upward. Bye.